Alright, hello third graders, welcome back. Today is Tuesday, January 5th, and we are still working on area, and we're working on area with square units. So our lesson today is using different square units to find our area. We're going to see how they're different. So we are in our iReady instruction book, and it should be a blue page, and we're going over page 282 and 283. Now to do this lesson today, you are going to be required to have a ruler, okay? So make sure that I have remembered to supply you with a ruler. If you don't have one, you'll need to raise your hand so you can get one. Now on a ruler, you have two sides. You have centimeters, and it'll say cm. And then on the flip it on the other side, you have inches. So let's see what they want us to do. It says use an inch ruler. So we want to make sure first that we have our ruler flipped so that we are only looking at our inches. And it wants us to measure one of the square units for square A. So I can't measure it up here. As you see, when it puts it on the board, it makes it a whole lot bigger. So I've pulled out a book just like you're looking at. So the squares are going to be much smaller in the book. And I want to measure it using my inches. So again, check and make sure on your inches side. The ruler I'm holding has a 0 line. So I need to make sure to line up the end of the square directly on the 0 line and not at the end of the ruler. So when I do that, I can see that this square is exactly 1 inch. Every side is 1 inch. So this is a 1 inch square. So here I'm going to put the square unit is 1 inch long and 1 inch wide. 1 inch long, 1 inch wide. So one square unit has an area of 1 square inch. It says count the square units in square A to find the area. The area of square A is, let's count them, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the area has 4 square inches. Since each square is 1 square inch and there are 4, it gives me an area of 4 square inches. Okay, let's move to rectangle B. Notice they're a whole lot smaller, and look, they've changed my measurement. Number 4 says use the centimeter side of my ruler. So again, I'm going to now flip my ruler to the other side and make sure I'm on centimeters. And I'm going right down here to this blue square unit, and I need to measure. And it is exactly 1 centimeter on the length and the width. So it says the square unit is 1 centimeter long and 1 centimeter wide. So one square unit has an area of 1 square centimeter because it's 1 on the length and the width. It's 1 square centimeter. Count the square units in rectangle B to find the area. So now I'm going to count all of these squares. Number inside as you count. 7, 14, 21. We're counting by 7, which is great because you're working on your 7s this week. Good practice here. 28, 6, 7, 14, 21, 28. And 35. 7, 14, 21, 28, 35. Those are your 7 facts right there. The area of the rectangle B is, we got 35 square centimeters because there are 35 blue squares and one square is 1 centimeter on every side. Suppose square A is divided into smaller size square units. Couldn't you also count these square units to describe the area of square A? If we took square A and we cut it into smaller square units. If we cut that into smaller square units, what it's asking us is asking us if can we then describe it? Yes. We're going to have a bigger answer, aren't we? Because you're going to end up with more squares. If I come up here and cut this up, don't do this, but just listen to me. If I cut this into smaller sizes, now it's going to take 4 instead of 1 to cover it up. But yes, absolutely, we can still find the area. Number 7. Does the size of the square unit that is used to cover a shape make a difference how you find the area? Explain. No, it doesn't, because how do we find area? You just count. Oop. So we're going to put no. You just, oh my goodness, this pen is, you just count the size squares that cover your shape. So we're finding area the same way. It doesn't matter if we do centimeter squares or if we do inches on squares. We're still going to find our area the same way by counting our squares. All right, 283, let's talk about it. How is finding the area of square A in square inches like finding the area of rectangle B in square centimeters? Well, you did the same thing.
Can you come to the office, please?
We just count the squares. We did the same thing, don't we? We just count the squares that cover our shape. That's all we have to do is count our squares. Number 9, if you found the area of square A in square centimeters, do you think the number of square centimeters would be greater or less than the number of square inches you found for its area? Explain. If I went back to that big inch, but this time I use centimeters, is my number going to get bigger or smaller? It's going to get bigger. It's going to take more. The smaller your piece is, the more you have to cover it up. So, do you think it would be greater or less? It would definitely be greater. It would be greater. Why? Because they're smaller pieces. Because the pieces are the square. Let's use square. The square is smaller. You need more squares. The smaller your square is, the more you're going to need. Just think about the pizza we had at our Christmas party. The smaller the pieces, you needed to eat more to get full. If the pieces would have been huge, you would maybe have just ate one piece and you would have been full. But because our pieces were small, you needed more. So the smaller those squares are, the more you're going to need. Number 10, suppose you were measuring the area of a door. Would you need more square feet or more square inches? So which is bigger? Are feet or inches bigger? Feet are bigger, right? So if I measured the door in feet, would I need a whole lot? No. A foot, remember, is the length of a ruler. I wouldn't need very many. But if I decided to measure my door using these inches, would I need a lot? Yeah, because inches are smaller. We would need more inches because it's smaller. Because the smaller the square, the more you need. Again, think about the pizza. The smaller those sizes, I wanted to eat more. I also think about little mini-sized candy bars. If I buy a bag of those mini-sized candy bars, I can eat several of those before I start getting full. But if I go buy the big candy bar, I might not even be able to eat a whole one of those because they're so big. So the smaller it is, the more you're going to want. All right, let's look at 11 and 12. It says number each square unit in the shape below. They've started it for us. We're just going to finish it and count the square units and find the area. So remember, we're just counting. Doesn't matter what the size is when we're finding area. We're still just going to count. So they've already started. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of those. So just count those squares. Work with a grid. We're going to work together to find the area of each shape. So they've got it now on grid. So you see these dotted lines. I'm going to go ahead and finish tracing those because we've got to have squares in order to make square units and count. Now simply count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and there are 12. Now come over here. They didn't do those little broken lines for me, so I need to just go ahead and finish these rows and finish these columns, just dot to dot, make your squares, and now count them. So we're going to fill in as we count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So it took 15. Again, remember to find area, all we have to do is count the squares that cover our shape. And also remember, if your squares are little squares, you're going to need a whole bunch of little bitty squares to cover a shape. But if your squares are big, you're not going to need as many, are you, to cover up your shape. The smaller your size, the more you're going to need. Remember that. If you have questions, leave me a comment with your question so I can come and help you.